The Kurten Report.
Welcome back to The Kurten Report, and I'm delighted to have on the show now in this segment a good friend of mine who is a fantastic investigative journalist, who is Lewis Brackpool. Let's just bring Lewis into the stage there. Hi, Lewis. Great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm very well, David. It's good to see you again. I think it's been quite a long time since we last chatted or got together, so we must plan something in properly at some point.
Absolutely. I interviewed you, I think, a few months ago, but always good to see you in the pub as well. So
absolutely.
That's great. Look, Lewis, you have been doing some fantastic work with freedom of information requests and asking the government questions that they really don't want to be asked. What do you think was the best? What was the one thing, the one answer you got that you are most proud of getting?
That's such a good question. There are so many that there's such a massive list of requests now. I'm pinging off. It feels like 40 a week almost. I actually get a bit of a kick out of it. The one recently that I think I'm quite proud of sort of uncovering, because we've been talking about this for a long time. We've spoken not just in the pub, but of course on camera a lot, all around digital identification and CBDCs. And of course, this push or agenda for a social credit score system and integrating that as a kind of a digital ID within the UK. And recently, I teamed up with Together to do an information request all about that, and to try and see whether the government has cohorts or more information with, whether it be with the Bank of England or the Foreign Commonwealth Office, that have had ties with the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. And recently, they said that just one report between the UN and, of course, the United Kingdom, it was such a big request. It had thousands of documents that could relate to one of my requests, trying to uncover more information about the UK's involvement. And to see that and to post that and to get the reaction, I mean, I'm not shocked, but to have that thrown back at you is sinister. Not to mention, there's another request that I was shocked about, and that was all to do with TV storylines, fictional TV storylines that had government messaging, whether it be vaccines, health, immigration, or extremist narratives being pushed from the government, climate change, all of these different types of topics being purposely written into fictional storylines. So you see things like Coronation Street, EastEnders, Emmerdale, all of these shows that I don't personally watch. I'm not sure why people do anymore, but that's their cup of tea. Where the government has openly admitted that they embed these narratives and these messages within, and you can see all the correspondence between the high-level executive and CEOs, such as ITV, the BBC, Channel 4, Global, all of these mega organizations across the UK, really having cohorts with the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. And it's just, it's something that everyone suspects, but to have it, parroted back to you, to show the evidence and to put that out and to make that public information is, I don't know, I'm very proud to try and get that out to the people, to the masses, for them to see.
Yeah, I mean, you, as you say, this is something people have suspected for a long time, because we know there are things like the Behavioural Insights team run by the government. We know they have a nudge unit. They're trying to, they put advertising up through the COVID era, which was really powerful and very frightening. And it also smeared you if you didn't go along with the narrative. And you see these things, as I say, I don't watch these soap operas anymore, like EastEnders. I've got better things to do with my time, but tens of millions of people do watch them, and they do get influenced by them. So, I mean, with the sort of narratives that they're putting into these shows, are they things like for, to encourage people to get a vaccine, for example, or an injection? Is that the kind of thing?
Yeah, well, one of the examples that was given, I think you might remember, there's a particular clip that gets pushed out on Twitter, especially during the COVID era. And that was two particular characters interacting in I believe, a corner shop where they spoke together about, oh, why are you so excited or so happy today? Well, I just got my second vaccine, and they were patting them, showing the sticker off.
Wow.
I've just got my second vaccine. I can't wait to get the next one. And then you had this woman who came in, this white woman called Karen. That was the character's name, who came into this shop, and they were having a conversation, and she said, no, I wouldn't personally get that. Lab rats, that's what we are. You've got to admit they pushed it through too soon. I wouldn't put any of that horrible stuff into my body. Anyways, can I get a packet of fags, please? And it's that sort of mockery of the skeptic within this particular narrative. And then after that, they would say things like all the talking points like, well, what makes you so smart? Some of the best scientists in the world was working on this vaccine, and you think you know better. How's that PhD working out for you, Karen? And it was these lines that was being used, but it showed that the Department of Culture, Media and Sport have had cohorts with these executives like the BBC, Channel 4, to really instill, and openly admitted that they were instilling things like pro-vaccine messaging and the stay-at-home narrative as well that we saw to sort of quell. Maybe it's more of the boomer audience that were thinking of potentially, being a bit more skeptic around, vaccines and the the lockdown narrative between that times. But like I said, it's not just that. Climate change is a big one too, and they've openly admitted it in these reports that came out, in these documents from the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, where they said a friend of mine was saying that he had it on, and I questioned him to why he even had EastEnders on, but still, he said one of the characters was speaking about geo-engineering and cloud seeding, so something that was very out of pocket, very different, it stuck out like a sore thumb. But these documents proved that they were pushing also pro-climate change, pro-net zero narratives to sort of nudge the public into this sort of sphere of narrative. So it is fascinating to look at, but it's also to be expected because we can see it with our own eyes and ears, or we can hear it as well. So it's typical.
Yeah, they're pushing they pushed the COVID and lockdown and injections, didn't they? They're pushing the climate alarmism. They're pushing wokery in all of its forms. I guess that is mainly to do with the LGBT and the trans agenda, and they're also pushing the migration agenda. So everyone should be accepting of mass immigration as well, and it's. I can see through this immediately, and I'm sure you can as well, but it is frightening to think that there's a lot of people who watch these shows and they're not actually thinking. They're not actually engaging any kind of critical thinking, and it just goes into their brains and they accept it. I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, I just don't understand how some people don't see through this immediately, but they don't. There's a lot of people who don't.
Yeah, I think it's a comfort thing, I think for decades now, I think people have relied on the television to provide them with the information, whether it be through news, whether it be the type of entertainment that they consume. And because of the rise of social media, citizen journalism, and alternative media, a lot of the older generation in the boomer category are still tied to whatever is preached on through television is factual or is truthful and has more weight to it. You've even got a lot of guys that would be on our side of the political spectrum and talking about lots of different subjects, but still hang on to, let's say, GB News, for example, or maybe Talk TV, to name a few, that if they heard it on that, then that for them is like a solidifying, well, okay, then I can either speak about it a little bit more. I'm not saying that that's for the whole entire demographic that believes that or thinks that way, but there are still millions of people that still are in this paradigm of I want to rely on the TV first as my own fact checker before actually looking into it on maybe a platform like X or, even Facebook maybe, but it's more towards X where it's a bit more unfiltered, and that you have lots of alternative media journalism that can pick up a camera go and shoot on a scene and show you firsthand what's happening without spinning a narrative, without adding commentary, just shooting and giving a caption and letting the audience make their own mind up, where that's opened up a lot of opportunities for people to have more of a critical thought, as opposed to having a commentator or a host feed you the thought. So that's something to bear in mind. I do understand it. You know, if there's new technologies or the fast pace of technologies anyway, and like I said, the rise of social media, I can imagine, it's not for me personally, but I can imagine that's quite daunting for a lot of people in that kind of generation. So at the same time, I don't blame them, but at the other same time as well, you've got to break free from this box. If you're looking at these other types of news organizations that talk about things that you want to hear, maybe looking into it yourself through other channels might be more of a benefit to you as well.
And that's why what you're doing is so fantastic, because you're actually going to the source, which is what we need to do. And even those other, you know, alternative media outlets that you just mentioned, GB News, you know, Talk TV, they're just basically talking heads. They get people to come in and discuss things, spice it up. And they think that good television is when you get two people having an argument with each other. But you're actually looking at what the government is actually doing and what their policies actually are, what they're doing behind the scenes, and finding out things that people don't normally find out or even bother to find out, because it takes a lot of time to do what you're doing. And you might get knocked back, as you have been, but a number of times by various departments saying, "Oh, we're just not going to answer your questions," which I think is outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've been very grateful to, well, to be fair, GB News on one point with Ben Leo, who has always invited me on the show to talk about these particular subjects. But I do agree, there's not enough, it's not enough salt to, or weight to have when you just have a quick 5-minute segment of just arguing. I do agree with that. But yeah, it can be very difficult. It's a lot of research. It's a lot of pushback, but I get a kick out of it. You know, Tony Blair said that one of his biggest regrets in policy making was the freedom of information request. So actually, I encourage more people to get involved. If Tony Blair doesn't like it, we should be all jumping on that and getting involved with sending your own freedom of information requests. So feel free to use my templates. Go out and do it yourself. Try and find questions. Don't wait around for anyone, is what I would say. You know, and if you get something, we've never been so connected before through social media in our entire lives. So you can easily get hold of a journalist, whether it be myself or others, to push out something that you might find from asking these questions. It has now never been more important to ask and push the government for answers and to ask important questions from institutions and departments. So like I said, I encourage people to get involved, to write out their emails and use templates from others like myself that have been pushing this out, because it's so important.
Indeed. And you've been widely reported by many other people as well, even around the world, I think, because what you found out is unique and things that haven't been found out before. I just want to put this up on the stage, and you might not like this, but I think someone from the Daily Telegraph actually stole some of your things. So this was a headline there by this journalist, Sarah Napton: UK taxpayer funds gay porn studies and music therapy for pregnant Africans. This was something you found out, and they just taken it and not credited you, which I think is appalling, isn't it? Can you tell me about these things, though? What are these gay porn studies and music therapy?
Just to correct, that was Charlotte Gill. So that was Charlotte Gill's work, but the one that she took was actually the vaccines being embedded within the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. So that was my one. But the funny thing is that the Telegraph took the story, and this particular journalist, and you know, I know some people within the Telegraph, and they're absolutely fine. But I think the way that this particular journalist just took the story and just ran it through with no credit. That's all I want, is just a bit of credit, because it takes some time to, of course, gather the information and present it. I'd spent 2 months trying to uncover these documents. I went on to Bev Turner's show to speak briefly about this pushback. And so I was expecting, after a delay, the documents to come through, but I wasn't, expecting them to actually hand them over. I thought it's just going to incriminate them and make them look bad. So I wasn't expecting anything. And when it did, I had the documentations, and it took me a few days to sort of analyze it, go through it, make sure it's all there. And when I uploaded the video presenting these documentations, by the end of the day, 5 o'clock, I uploaded it for 7 o'clock in the morning. By 5 o'clock, the same story had been taken and there was no credit. And when I called this out on X, they said, well, no, your FOI was uploaded to a particular site called What Do They Know? But upon investigation, someone who I don't know who this person is, maybe he works for an organization somewhere. I don't know if it's the Telegraph. I can't be certain. I don't know who it is. Had taken my same delayed request, sent it again, and even referenced me in the request. And the documentation was sent both not just to me, but this random person. And so they scoured What Do They Know, took that and still didn't credit, even though that I was the one referenced within the request. So after politely asking not only the Telegraph, but of course the journalist, I would really appreciate some credit. I'm grateful that it's being pushed out to a mainstream audience. Yeah, I didn't get anything. And it was just, it was quite disheartening. But this is politics. This is media. This is what happens, unfortunately. They haven't got time to get researchers out there and to, sit down and go through documents, or trying to unravel or trying to draw out documentation from, departments. So it's easy for, organizations to go on Twitter, rip stories, and just put it behind the byline, or put it behind a particular journalist who hasn't really done much other than just read a few things on Twitter. That's the reality of it now. And that's why mainstream media is dying and alternative media and citizen journalism is rising.
Yeah, Lewis, I know how you feel, because I put stuff out all the time and then people just copy and paste it and don't credit me. And I think that's horrible. At least they could join in or credit me, but then they take it and then they get the glory for themselves. It's a horrible thing. We have to find ways of actually, protecting ourselves and shielding against us, and I'm sure you've learned from that, experience.
Yeah. And just sorry to jump in as well. For me, it's just about trying to get the information out there. But when you've worked so tirelessly to try and get that information, and then a bigger organization from you, great, puts it out there and gets it out to a wider audience and gets everyone talking. When you're the person doing the research and putting in the backbone, and all you just want is just some credit, just to say this was put in, nothing else. That's the bare minimum. Like I said, I am grateful. I'm grateful that these are being pushed out to a wider audience. But then what happened after that is bigger commentators and bigger hosts on other shows were using the article and doing their bigger videos and going to other wider audiences, even knowing that, I was the one that put in the research. And it was kind of disheartening. But at the same time, I am just grateful that more and more people are hopefully going to wake up to a lot of stuff that's being done behind closed doors and through these departments. So I am grateful overall. But at the same time, I don't know, a bit of credit just would go a long way,
Absolutely. You're doing fantastic work. And it will happen. We will be there. These organizations, as you said, are collapsing because people are leaving them and they're coming to people like you who are actually looking at the sources. So we're just coming to the end of this segment, Lewis, but where can people find out more about you and your work and all the things that you've been finding out?
Well, firstly, thank you very much, David, for having me on. It really, really means a lot. You can find my work on X, Lewis_Brackpool. You can find me on Substack, thestateofit.substack.com, or you can just type in my name, Lewis Brackpool. YouTube as well. And unfortunately, I do use Instagram, even though it's heavily censored. But yes, it's all good fun.
Lewis, thank you so much for joining me on the Kurten Report, and I will see you again very soon, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, David.
Australian National Review is Australia's first real, free and independent press. One with no editorial control by the elite, but a publication that can generate critical thinkers and critical debate, and hold those spreading mistruths and deliberate propaganda in mainstream media to account. News with a difference that will be educational, compelling, and create a platform for political and social change in this country, and address the real issues facing this country and the world.